Welcome to the Fantasy 40 Podcast with your host, John Dabari.
I mean, I can beat the shit out of Hollywood Brown if you'd like.
Matt Walker.
Like the DK Metcalf of running back.
And Andrew Berg.
I love Hakeem Butler, actually. He's starting to grow on me.
Remember to like, rate, subscribe on Podbean, iTunes, Stitcher, and Spotify. Follow the guys on Twitter at the Fantasy 40. Enjoy the show.
We are back. Welcome back to another episode of the Fantasy 40 minus one, Mr. Andrew Burke. So you've got myself, John Dabari, with Matt Walker doing a two-man show. Should come out hopefully Thanksgiving morning, so you could listen to this instead of your annoying family.
Or watching any parade. Yes, the Fantasy 26.67 is back. Because Andrew Burke decides he wants to go, what do they call that, drifting? Up in Tacoma.
So,
yeah, whatever he's
hiking
doing.
Through
the people need their solar.
You mentioned the delivering solar power in the snow. Something sounds sketchy.
A little fishy there, Jesse Pinkman.
You had mentioned the avoiding the dog shit parades on TV. I remember like a year or two ago, my brother, who is one of our two avid listeners to this program, on Twitter or Instagram or somewhere, he tweeted out a picture of him and my nephew watching the Macy's parade, and he's like, #tradition. And I think I called him. I was like, what are you talking about? We've never watched it in our whole life. Like, he's starting their tradition. So hopefully he can listen to this on his headphones while him and my nephews watch the Macy's parade today.
Yeah, I mean, that's, it's a tradition unlike any other. No offense to the Masters, but parades suck on television. They're not much better even in person. And unfortunately, we have done the parade. There's a pretty decent one in Philly that we went down to for a couple of years. Actually, last year we went downtown and stayed downtown the night before Thanksgiving. The wife and I said, we're doing our own thing. We didn't even cook. We stopped and got Boston Market on the way home from the parade on Thanksgiving Day and had Boston Market Thanksgiving. I got to be honest, it was pretty awesome. We went out the night before, read the Terminal Market, had a nice dinner, went and saw a light show, swam in the pool at the hotel the morning of Thanksgiving, went to a parade. It kind of worked last year, but we're not going to be doing that this year because I have like 7 illnesses, as I said to you before we went live, that I'm trying to combat with every known homeopathic and medicinal possibility in my system right now. So I think I'm being held up by a cavalcade of pills at present. So I will not be outside for Thanksgiving.
Your Thanksgiving last year reminds me of I've never looked more forward to Thanksgiving in my life. I'm working a bunch today and tomorrow, so I'm not participating, and I don't like Thanksgiving food anyway, besides mashed potatoes, because everyone likes mashed potatoes. So I get to avoid the whole thing. I'm going to sit at home and have myself a nice frozen pizza and watch football with my wife and kids out of my house. I get to be alone and just watch football, and it's going to be the greatest Thanksgiving of my life.
Listen, you can hear the excitement in your voice, John, and
I cannot wait.
Usually only happens when you talk shit on players, so you can tell how truly excited you are for your frozen pizza giving.
All alone in a pizza, it's the best day ever.
Listen, I mean, unfortunately, and probably the smoothest transition we're going to get is this slate of Thanksgiving Day games is going to leave a lot to be desired. So one frozen pizza may not be enough. You may need to just keep eating all day long to distract yourself from these games. And we'll just dive right into the unwatchable Chicago Bears at likely Jeff Driscoll-less Detroit Lions for the 12:30 East game.
I read a thing this morning that he was unable to even participate in the walkthrough. So I've never even heard of that. So if he can't, stand there in shorts and do a walkthrough in like a hotel ballroom, wherever they do that shit.
Well, they're at home. I don't assume it was in their facility, but I appreciate the hotel ballroom.
You got the point. I mean, that's where it happens a lot of times. But yeah, I don't. I think David Blau.
That is his name.
Bloughh is the gentleman who will get the nod, and
Yesterday afternoon, Matt Patricia said Jeff Driscoll's hamstring is, quote, pretty sore. And he did get a limited tag in the walkthrough. So like you said, how hard is it to walk through? But I guess if your hammy's all dinged up, you're kind of limping through. So maybe that's what the limited tag is for, but not looking too good. And if he is out, we're now to third string, as you said, David Blau. So that has to crater any potential fantasy value of our boy Kenny Galladay and Marvin Jones, and even recent kind of, valuable waiver addition, Bo Scarborough, who has had actually 2 decent weeks running the ball. He doesn't catch anything, but he's been a pretty nice waiver ad. He's getting all the running downs work in Detroit, but not going to matter if David Blau is the quarterback.
Isn't there a small chance that just coming in, he's just going to force feed Galladay?
There should be a
guy
large
coming
chance.
off the bench. He's like, oh boy, what am I going to do here? And just pepper the number 1 with targets, right? Possible.
One would think, but there could always be this random, whoever the 4th wide receiver is on this goddamn team, whoever's behind Danny Amendola, they go 4 wides, and that dude sees a dozen targets because he's caught balls from David Blau in the past. But I would agree with you. Except against Chicago, they're pretty good against the pass, all things being considered. They actually get run on at present without Akeem Hicks and Danny Trevathan. So maybe they just literally give 25 carries to Bo Scarborough and try and make this game as ugly as possible. Right now, the Lions are only a 3.5-point dog. And I have to think they're assuming that's a limited Driscoll at best, or more likely a third-string quarterback. So that is little respect to those Chicago Bears.
Rightfully so. I mean, they've looked terrible. But, yeah, this is – the line currently has a total of 38. Boy, the under and the Bears are looking pretty good right now.
I'd have to agree. I mean, even if Driscoll plays limited, he's – relies on his athleticism. He's actually pretty athletic, all things being considered. Just a decent amount of fantasy points running the ball. With an injured hammy, that's not going to happen. So I'm
Marvin Hall, by the way, is the answer to the 4th wide receiver. And it's going to be a big Marvin Hall game.
Marvin Hall's their deep threat. He actually had a couple days in the sun with Stafford. I recall. So maybe we have to go to the 5th receiver, or maybe it's just Logan Thomas. Maybe that's who's going to get peppered with targets.
There's actually nobody. I've been trying to dig through this. It's only Marvin Hall.
Yep. Well,
I don't think they even have another wide receiver who's caught a ball.
Yeah, well, that sounds about right for Detroit. But
fuck this.
Yeah, that's an ugly game. I got to think they have to do everything in their power to get David Montgomery right in this game, right? Detroit's not a good run defense. It should be a positive game script. It's in Detroit, so it's perfect game environment in the Dome. If Montgomery does not have 100 and a touchdown today, I'm done with him for this year. Absolutely.
I agree, and I plugged him in my Thursday DFS lineups as my RB1.
I mean, listen, when we go through the rest of the games, I don't know that there are some names playing on the Thursday slate, but he is clearly the running back to own in that 12:30 slot. Obviously, Allen Robinson is going to get fired up, but he's going to get Darius Slay. So he's probably going to be limited. And then I don't trust in Trubisky to do anything.
No. Yeah, this game's a wasteland, and we've spent far too much time talking about it. Moving on to the afternoon game. We have the Buffalo Bills at the Dallas Cowboys. I think this is going to be better than it probably is on paper. It's got a total of, depends where you're looking, but roughly 46.5. Cowboys are about a touchdown, 6.5-point favorite at home. I think Buffalo is going to be a little more game in this than other people think.
I agree with you. And the 4:30 and 8:20 East games have almost mirror lines. So it's interesting because they're vastly different setups. But I agree. Buffalo makes games ugly. I would take them with a touchdown, to be honest with you. I got to believe that Dallas just runs the shit out of Zeke in this game because Buffalo can get run on. Zeke probably should get a touchdown in the game. They should put Tre'Davious White on Amari Cooper, and we see what Amari Cooper looks like when he has shadow coverage with a good D-back, and Tre'Davious White is good. He's no Stephon Gilmore, but he's good. He's a top 10 corner in this league. So might limit him again. I do think that opens up Michael Gallup
Yes, sir.
To get off. And even Randall Cobb, he's looked pretty damn good as kind of the third
he has
on this team, but it's because their tight end doesn't exist anymore. So Cobb's pretty much eating up all that middle of the field work because Witten can't get off the line of scrimmage, and they refuse to put Blake Jarwin in there. So,
yeah, Gallup is another DFS guy I really like because I think, like you said, Cooper's not going to do much. And on the Buffalo side, your boy Beasley. I think Beasley has a nice revenge game on Thanksgiving here. I like Cole Beasley too.
I fully buy into revenge game narratives. I was spot on with Jarvis Landry last week, and that he was, Baker wasn't going to let Jarvis Landry not score at least one touchdown against the Dolphins, and I can so see this. I mean, Beasley is a target vacuum for Josh Allen. Going back to Dallas, I would put good money that he scores a touchdown in this game. John Brown under 50 yards for the first time in a game last week, caught a touchdown late to salvage his fantasy day. I would temper expectations on him a little bit. Dallas is actually pretty good at limiting the passing game. You have to start him because of what he's been doing, but I would think more wide receiver 2 than any type of wide receiver 1 upside for him.
What do you think of Devin Singletary in this matchup? I kind of like him, but he kind of scares me.
That's kind of describes him this entire year. So I'm with you, but in a positive game script, he got 21 carries, turned it into 106 yards last week, and there wasn't any big runs in there. His long was 11, so he was just consistent, churning yards. I don't think the game script's going to be as conducive for him to get that. And talking about 21 carries last week, Frank Gore got 15 in that same game, so they were just comfortable running the ball on Denver. They're going to have to throw it more. I think Singletary can thrive in kind of that type of game scenario, but unfortunately Josh Allen just does not target running backs. So mixed bag. He's not going to get 20 carries. He might not even get 20 touches, but he's definitely the back to own of the two in this game. So I'd be starting him. He's probably a flex.
Yeah, I don't know. Can't get a good read on him. And then in the nightcap, we have the Saints at the Falcons. Didn't they play last year? Wasn't it Atlanta at New Orleans on Thanksgiving?
I don't recall. That sounds about right.
I feel like New Orleans has been in a couple of these now that they've added the third game. Because I just know they've been showing these stupid fucking Cajun turkeys. That's why I remember it.
Listen, that might change your opinion of turkeys. But I mean, turkey by nature does suck. I mean, it's meant to be like on a sandwich, not a whole roasted bird that you cut into pieces and pour gravy on to make it palatable. But I'm glad for this game because this is about the time when I should be putting my kids to sleep, where I probably will be watching a game when I'll be over the in-laws for the earlier games and might not be as tuned in, but I will certainly be watching this game. All 3 games are indoors, which is beautiful because we're talking perfect environments. We got Detroit, Dallas, and Atlanta. That's a good thing. We're talking ideal game scripts. So I'm not really worried about the Saints on the road because it's still in a dome division. They are favored by 7 in a decent total, 48.5. What I'm looking at. Start all your Saints because there's only 4 of them to start. I mean, you definitely start Breeze, you're starting Kamara, you're starting Michael Thomas, and you're starting Jared Cook. You can't argue Jared Cook anymore.
Michael Thomas everywhere.
Yeah, Michael Thomas is the top DFS play. I do draft myself, and he's 101 in every Thursday 3-game slate, and should well be because he's guaranteed for 10 targets, probably 10 catches, 100 yards, and maybe that touchdown. So his floor is most people's ceilings. What he's been doing is amazing. But on the Atlanta side, Julio Jones didn't practice Monday or Tuesday with his shoulder injury.
I saw that.
He came back to the game last week after injuring it, but we all know kind of after that adrenaline kind of subsides and you go home and sleep on it, and then you wake up the next day, there is a better than nil chance he does not play in this game.
No, and he's a guy who's been banged up, and we've seen the Falcons use him as a decoy even if he's hurt. So I'm not interested.
Which then makes me extremely interested in Calvin Ridley.
Well, here's the thing. Lattimore should be back, right?
I don't believe
they said he practiced. He was limited.
Okay, I did not see that. I figured he wasn't even practicing last week, and now it's on a short week. I didn't think he would be playing, but if he does, that would certainly change things. Hammy listed
So
as
then you go to Russell Gage. Is it a Gage game then? if he takes away Ridley, do you pivot to Gage?
Listen, you would kind of have to. I mean, Gage has kind of sucked up all those Austin Hooper targets, and the Falcons are going to have to throw in this game. I mean, to keep pace with the Saints. They're a touchdown dog at home. They're not going to be able to just take the air out of the ball. I did see that Devonta Freeman was a full participant in practice, so he will be back after a 2-week absence. I would be concerned with an in-game setback. I believe it was his foot. I'm not really going to trust an already injury-prone back with a questionable foot in his first game back on a short week myself, but there's also no one else to trust in that backfield. Brian Hill is dead to me. Quadre Allison is a bad running back. He is going to just hang around long enough that he can fall into the Kalen Balazs territory for me, of a guy that I hated always and will be proven right on ultimately. But I don't think there's a lot you can start on that Falcon side. I wouldn't even be comfortable starting Matt Ryan, to be honest with you. If Julio's limited and Lattimore plays, I'm scared.
But exactly like you said, assuming the Saints beat the hell out of them right out of the gate, there should be some garbage time upside, especially for quarterbacks.
Should. I don't disagree with the should, but if we're just talking this slate, he would be my QB 4 of the 6 games. I would definitely start Breeze over him, and I would start both quarterbacks in the Buffalo-Dallas game.
That's fair. I will agree with that.
Yeah, I mean, so he's only getting the benefit of the shitty Bears-Lions game for not being outside of the top 4 on the Thursday slate. It's probably going to be a better game. It's a division. Atlanta had 2 pretty surprising weeks before they laid an egg last week against the Tampa Bay Buccaneers at home, of all people. So they got to get that stink off of them. Jameis tried his best to keep them in the game, but even they couldn't take advantage of it in the end. Probably because my boy Godwin is just absolutely amazing and single-handedly wins football games for the Buccaneers. But they have to show up again this week. So I guess I could get there with you. I just don't know who outside of Ridley does it for Atlanta.
If you're looking DFS talk, of course, and if you're in super deep tight end premium leagues, I've liked the little bit I've seen from Jaden Graham. I mean, I think a lot of it's just a product of them having a role for tight end in this offense. I don't know how talented he is, but they force-fed him a couple times, and he hasn't had – there have been far worse results from more higher-profile tight ends than he's had in the little run he's had here. Last week, I think he caught 2 balls. One was for a deep one, but I think he still ended up like tight end 7 or something, 2 or 3 catches for 50-ish yards or some garbage like that. But lately, that's all you need at tight end to be productive.
Yeah, he's definitely been the better Jay Graham at the tight end position. He actually only had 2 targets, 1 catch for 53 yards. So you're right, he had a deep ball, but 6.3 PBR points probably is a low-end tight end one. Yeah, it's not embarrassing. Do you know where Jaden Graham went to college?
I do, but I forgot.
He went. You gonna guess?
It's an Ivy League school or no?
It is. There's only so many. Go.
Harvard.
What's the? All right, no. Yale. He's a Yale Bulldog, which means he is far too smart to be playing football. So he needs to move on. But yeah, you could do worse. I mean, you shouldn't have to. But and don't tie yourself to a Thursday night tight end. We'll talk about it going into the weekend. But let's do a quick circle. Who wins the games with the spreads real quick, and then we're going to move on. Chicago, Detroit.
With the spreads, I'm taking the Bears and the under. Buffalo, Dallas. I will take it's 6.5 at most places. I wish it was 7. I'd jump on Buffalo. At 6.5, I will reluctantly take Dallas, and I will take the over, 46.5. Atlanta, New Orleans. I got a feeling this one's going to be a bit of a stinker, so I'm going under the 49, and I will take the Saints minus the 7.
All right. I'm almost with you, University. I'm definitely the Bears in the under. I think that game's going to be terrible, and Detroit might not score. And I mean, this literally could be like a
neither could the Bears.
Yeah,
it could be a fucking 0-0 tie.
Yeah, this could be like 24-6. I could see that, and no, not giving the Bears any credit, just how bad Detroit could be if Blau's in there.
Not to ruin our point spread talk here, but Detroit could win at 9-0 on just all field goals, or 12-0 all field goals from.
Matt Prater. Yeah, he knows no limits. Yeah.
He's good, and it's indoors, and that he could be 3-yarders, 53-yarders all game.
This is true, and the Bears kicker
just missing him. Yeah,
Eddie Pinheiro will not be kicking any of those field goals. He'll be going for it on fourth down if Matt Nagy knows what's good for him. I think Dallas does have kind of a bounce back game at home. So yeah, I take them with the points, but I do think Buffalo will keep it interesting. Yeah, I just think Dallas will ultimately be too much for him on the road. And then I am just, after seeing Atlanta fall apart again with limited Julio, I'm going Saints.
Go over or under on Buffalo and Dallas?
I would go over.
All right.
On that. I agree with the Saints Atlanta. I don't think Atlanta can hold up their end of the bargain. I said that earlier in the analysis. So I would go Saints in the under in the last one.
So I think we did the same. 6 for 6.
Oh yeah, because I was going to go Buffalo. I think that was my only change, and then I said no, Dallas needs. They need to get right in this game. So, all right, done with that. Happy Thanksgiving. We have the better games? Question mark. Come the weekend.
Big question mark.
Yeah, I'm scrolling. Nope. Barely any better games on the weekend. So we might as well just start diving in, and we'll just go with the 1 o'clock. So I will we'll jump in with the games. We'll round table them real quick and fire through. So because I have the Eagles set as my favorite team on CBS Sports, they're the first ones listed on the 1 o'clock game. They might not be for you, but Philadelphia travels to Miami, where they are a 9.5-point favorite against the lowly Dolphins. Thoughts on the game?
Philly should, emphasis on should, beat the shit out of Miami. But I think this Philly team is still kind of living on the reputation that they won the Super Bowl a few years ago. Miami does suck, but they do show up in games and at least try to play. That does fall apart in the second half. I think 9.5 is just a little too much. If it gets up to 10, I would love Miami. But I think Philly wins. I don't think it's a close game, but I don't think they fucking steamroll them like you would think just on paper looking at it. Jay Ajayi's creeping into the fucking running back touches now.
Revenge game.
Yeah, for fantasy, boy, the Eagles are a bit of a mess. Wentz hasn't looked good. Their wide receiver core is banged up. Complete running back by committee, not interested. Miami, give me a little fits of magic against this questionable Philly secondary. Same thing at running back. Ballage is dog shit. Hopefully they get Laird or Gaskin a few more touches, even though Ballage has gotten the dreaded vote of confidence. And actually, the best play in this whole game might be Devontae Parker, which has never been said in the history of the world.
It's starting to be said. Yeah. Because he's been pretty damn consistent this year. He's going to be a wide receiver too when this is all said and done. There's really nothing else in Miami right now. He was 6 for 91 last week on 11 targets. I mean, I would expect him to be peppered with targets again this week. The Eagles' defense has buckled down these last couple weeks. And outside of 2 trick plays, they were the only touchdowns they've given up. And obviously, as an Eagles fan, I'm watching these games intently. The Julian Edelman touchdown pass that got Philip Dorsett killed, and then the flea flicker pass to Malik Turner, where Russell Wilson just threw an absolute dime, were the only 2 touchdowns they've given up in the last 2 weeks. And paint me skeptical, but I don't believe Ryan Fitzpatrick is better than either of those quarterbacks, an old Brady or current Russell Wilson. So,
no,
I do believe the Eagles steamroll Miami. I think this is a very much get right game for the Eagles. Their defense is playing so well. Miami stinks. I don't care who they've been competitive against recently. Hopefully they run it a lot. Stick to the run because they won't have to get away from the run. Miles Sanders was really good last week on his touches, 15 for 86 total touches. He needs to see at least 15 touches again this week. Ajay can get 10 or 12 as well. They both can be viable flex or RB2s this week. And then you start the tight ends and you don't start anyone else because fun fact, and I sent this to some of my buddies yesterday, the Eagles, Deshaun Jackson has played pretty much one game for them this year, week 1, and he played a piece of another game. And he is still in their top 6 in receiving yards.
Yeah.
That's embarrassing. I mean, that cannot happen. I mean, everyone else should be embarrassed. Harry Roseman should be embarrassed. The receivers behind him should be embarrassed. It's pitiful. They have no one to throw to. They just cut Jordan Matthews again, rightfully so, because he was terrible. Greg Ward deserves more snaps, and hopefully he gets some. Maybe Alshon comes back this week, but I'm not starting him. I'm not starting Carson Wentz either. It's start those tight ends. I'd be willing to start Goddard, start their running backs. And like you said, on the Miami side, it's Devontae Parker or bust.
Although Alan Hearns had a decent week. I don't know how much you trust him, but he got involved last week. Got involved last week and got a new contract. So
I was going to say, they paid him. Good for him after he got shit canned by those Dallas Cowboys after tearing his leg to pieces. Did he break it? It was like a severe
shattered. Yes.
Yeah, shattered everything, and they released him in the offseason. So, yeah, good for him. And Hearns, 4 for 42 and a touchdown last week. A lot of garbage in that Cleveland-Miami game last week. But, hey, you're right. You could do worse. But there are no buys, so you shouldn't have to do worse. Alan Hearns should not be in anyone's starting lineup this week. Moving on. We are going to go to another NFC East team, the Washington Redskins, on a one-game winning streak. Head to Carolina to face Kyle Allen-led Panthers, should say Christian McCaffrey-led Panthers, who are a 10-point favorite at home.
Yeah, and they should be. Washington is pretty bad. They have not looked better with Haskins. I know they got the win while he's busy taking selfies, which I don't care about,
Nope.
just bringing it up. I actually said on Twitter, I don't know why the backups aren't taking all the kneel downs anyway. It's stupid.
Listen, that's what Case Keenum's getting paid for. Getting paid them big bucks. Get out there, kid. Finish this game off. Let Haskins entertain the masses. I agree.
But yeah, the total's 40.5. Wouldn't be shocked to see that go under if obviously McCaffrey could put up 40 himself. But other than that, there's nobody in Washington I trust. I wasn't blown away by the little bit I saw of Geis. To be fair, I didn't see all the Washington plays last week. Carolina, it's obviously McCaffrey. They've been peppering DJ Moore. If you're in best ball, I wouldn't be shocked to see Samuel pop up for Carolina. But other than that, I'm looking elsewhere for my fantasy points this week.
Yeah. I could see a Curtis Samuel get right game, but I wouldn't bank on it. Olsen's all but disappeared in this offense. Carolina's pretty bad against the run. You did bring Geis up, but him and Peterson are still splitting carries. So clearly that's going to be Bill Callahan's game plan, is to run it every single play, if at all possible. So yeah, not much to trust there. I'm not trusting McLaurin at all. Doesn't even seem like. No, I mean, it was nice to see Harmon getting in there. It's a glimpse into the future. For the Redskins with Haskins, Geis, McLaurin, and Harmon, but this isn't the year. Their offensive line still below average, and their defense sucks. So you're right. This should be a walk-away win for those Carolina Panthers. You realize that Christian McCaffrey he was running back 3 last week, averaging less than 3 yards a carry. He was just peppered with targets in that game. 22 carries and
100% snap share, by the way.
Yeah, I mean, that's what this kid does. They're going to break him. And I've said it before, and I'm going to continue to say it. He had 31 touches in this game, 9 catches on 9 targets for 69 yards and a touchdown. Still got his rushing touchdown. He's unstoppable in fantasy. Game script proof. It doesn't matter if one thing's not working, they will use him in another. It's extremely impressive. Norv Turner knows what to do with bell cow backs, and he is doing it with McCaffrey.
If you happen to have McCaffrey and Lamar Jackson, please give us a tweet with a screenshot of your team and record. I'd like to see it on the Fantasy 40 on Twitter.
Yeah, I mean, you could pretty much start Alan Hearns and Jaden Graham with those guys and still get away with W's most weeks. I mean, that's pretty much 70 points from those two week in and week out as on average. So 100 shouldn't be hard to come by, but we'll move on and go to what should be an absolute barn burner. And it's the New York Jets heading to Cincinnati, where Andy Dalton was reinstalled as the starting quarterback. What the fuck are they doing in Cincinnati right now?
I don't know.
Miami. I mean, insulting Miami there, where the Bengals are only a 3.5-point dog.
It was it was 3 Dalton, and it went down to 3, and then it's funny that it went back up to 3.5. Nobody cared. I mean, look, he's obviously better than Finley, so it's got to move the needle. If you're a betting man, you just pinch your nose and take Cincinnati here if you're in a pinch and have to pick someone in this game. But there's nothing here fantasy value wise. If you want to put out Tyler Boyd, go ahead, but the Jets secondary isn't horrific. They use Mixon more with Finley in there because they had no one at quarterback, so they had to lean on him. With the Red Rocket back in there, I think his numbers regress, actually. I think he gets fewer touches. And for the Jets, I mean, if you drafted Bell, you're going to play him. Other than that, Darnold's had a few good games in a row, but I don't really trust any of the receivers. PPR, what's his name? Crowder is usable, but this is a total fade, just like the other game we mentioned. Yuck.
So last week in a game, the Bengals-Steelers game that was 10-10 in the fourth quarter, Joe Mixon had 18 rushes for 79 yards, did not see a single target in the game. It's just it's astounding. But you're right. His utilization has increased precipitously with Finley. He was getting for damn near 20 carries a game, regardless of game script. When they were getting blown out by the Ravens, he got 20 carries. They should continue to do that. I don't give a shit that Dalton comes back in because the Jets won't run away with this game. But the Jets got a good run defense. So I don't think Mixon's going to be particularly successful. It will be interesting to see what Dalton comes in and does because you can throw in the Jets. But I'm with you. Le'Veon Bell is probably the only one I'm comfortable starting in this game. And I would start Crowder over Robbie Anderson. But the Bengals secondary is terrible. I could easily see this being a 2-touchdown Robbie Anderson game, but I'm not comfortable with it at all.
No.
Should actually be a good Andy Dalton. Sam Darnold. Dalton and Darnold. That's too close for me. Should be a good Sam Darnold game, all things being considered, going against those Bengals. And he's played really well the last couple of weeks. So if you were streaming him, I'd probably keep rolling with it.
Let's, after these two dog shit games back to back, let's get to a good one. The Niners at Baltimore. The Niners are the first 10-1 team to be an underdog since something nuts, like 15 years. And they are a 6-point dog on the road at Baltimore. I actually lump me in with the group of non-San Francisco believers, but give me Baltimore at home minus a touchdown. Niners are traveling West Coast to East Coast for a morning game. It's a thing, people. I don't think the Niners are the team that's going to figure out how to stop Lamar Jackson. Roll all the Baltimore players you've been rolling out all year. For the Niners, I wouldn't be shocked if they laid an egg here. So I'm not playing Garoppolo, roll the dice at running back. You could play Debo and Emmanuel Sanders if you would like to.
Fantastic transition, John, because, yes, we were talking about some shit games. So why not focus on the by far best game on the
Cheer ourselves up.
San Fran, we should even say a short week since they were Sunday night football. So they haven't even had as long, to recover from that drubbing that they put on the Green Bay Packers. But like I said last week, when Oakland had to go to the Jets for that 1:00 East game, I said, trap. And that came to reality pretty quick. Now, settle down, San Fran fan out there listening to our podcast. They're not the same teams, but I agree with you. A 10 a.m. kickoff for San Fran is less than ideal. Baltimore is clicking on all cylinders. Their chili is running hot right now. Lamar Jackson is getting angry when he's not scoring touchdowns on broken plays. He's staying in there on fourth downs to go for it. Listen, it's all coming up roses in B-More right now. So I'm with you. I think Baltimore should win this game. Their defense is close to as good as San Fran. I'm not going to say they're as good. San Fran's pretty impressive defense, all things being considered, but Baltimore is getting it done. And the addition to Peters in that secondary, their secondary is dangerous. And Garoppolo is prone to make some mistakes under pressure. So I could see a defensive touchdown for the Ravens as well, which could limit their offense a little bit. But San Fran better stay gap sound with Bosa and all trying to rip off those edges, because if they open a little sliver, Lamar Jackson's going 80. That's it. And I could easily see that happening. So I'm with you. I'm not starting Garoppolo. Everyone is starting Lamar Jackson. It doesn't matter who he plays. And I do think Baltimore wins that game as well. Just talked about a great game. Let's talk about another shitty game. We're going to talk about Tampa Bay versus Jacksonville, a battle of the Florida, well, I would say the Florida basement, but Miami has, something to say about that as well. But two very disappointing teams. Tampa Bay goes to Jacksonville, where the Jaguars are a 1-point favorite in Duval.
Tampa has been decent against the run, but Jacksonville is going to just force feed Fournette. So I still love my man Leonard Fournette in this one. I don't think you're going to get good YPC stats here, but I think the volume will be enough. And he's getting peppered in the passing game. He's hit like 7 targets 2 of his last 3 games or something. So he's always in play. DJ Chark obviously should have a good game. Like actually, all the wide receivers. If you want to roll out Dede this week, Chark. Who's the third guy?
Westbrook, Chark, or
Conley.
Conley has it.
Yeah. So all the Jacksonville wide receivers I like. If you like them all, I guess I have to like Nick Foles by default. Tampa Bay, I don't trust that they have a true running back committee, even though it looks like our man Rojo has come on a little bit the last few weeks. He's still dog shit. At wide receiver, obviously they've got 2 of the top 5 in fantasy. You're going to play them every chance you get. Just be aware sometimes the one puts up a goose egg while the other one thrives. Jameis, good luck. It's a crapshoot. He says the 2 wide receivers, but he throws in enough fumbles and interceptions to kill his own fantasy value. So I would stay away if you have any other attractive options. But this actually should be a decent game.
Agreed. Projected total of 49, which means Tampa Bay is anticipated to score 25 points or 24 points. So most of that should be via the air. So 2 or 3 passing touchdowns for Winston. Got to assume 1 or 2 interceptions for him as well. You definitely start both receivers. You mentioned Tampa Bay being stout versus the run. Yeah, they're really good. So it'd be interested to see Fournette, but Fournette of 12 targets last week for his 9 catches and 62 yards in that what seemed like a blowout the entire game against the Titans, although it was 7-3 at halftime. But the Titans literally ran away with the game in the third quarter. So Fournette was just stat compiling, getting 1-yard junk touchdowns when the game was out of hand. John was just loving it.
Boy, was I.
Eating up all those junk, pointless Leonard Fournette points because Marone came out and said we got to feed him, and damn it, they did. 33 touches in the game. It was largely out of hand. They're going to break him. It's only a matter of when. But so long as he's out there, you're definitely firing Leonard Fournette up. And, yeah, there's not much else for Jacksonville I would trust outside of Chark. I mean, there's other receivers, sure. Westbrook in PPR, Conley in a deep league. You better to be able to do better than Nick Foles when there's no teams on bye week. But I agree. It should be a decent game to watch. We just talked about Jacksonville's opponent last week. So the Tennessee Titans travel to Indianapolis for a division game where the Colts are a 3.5-point favorite. Sorry, 2.5 point. I apologize.
I got nothing here. I mean, we rant about Tennessee being trash every chance we get. They're just they make these games ugly. They're hard to watch. Derrick Henry's a fucking monstrous human being, and he kills people. So that's fun to watch. Tannehill is shockingly good, which I've never seen before in my life. They're wide receivers. It's a mixed bag. AJ Brown, maybe if you're desperate, but like you've mentioned a couple times, nobody's on the bye. I don't feel confident rolling AJ Brown out there. You should have better options than that. On the other hand, the Colts, I don't know what is going on with the Jonathan Williams thing, but they seem to force feed him. So ride that into the ground while you can. Otherwise, total's only 43 in this game. I wouldn't be shocked to see it go under. They're familiar with each other, division opponents, and Tennessee makes games ugly.
Oh, beautiful synopsis. Derrick Henry now running back 7 in PPR with 14 receptions on the season. That's what
14 all year,
all season. Yep,
get out of here.
With 10 touchdowns. He scored 2 touchdowns receiving on those 14 receptions, but 12 total touchdowns will get you there. 0.2 points behind Nick Chubb for 6. But yeah, I'm with you. Jonathan Williams had an NFL high 26 carries last week, which no one.
NFL high for the year.
No, for the week. I apologize. I'm sure someone touched it more this year, but 26 carries last week. He led the NFL in rushing attempts in week 12. And if game script allows, I'm sure that's what they will try to do again, because it's clear they do not want Jacoby Brissett to try and win games for them. And who knows what T.Y. Hilton will be. He should be good in this game, but he looked really bad last week. Looked like he was rushed back a little bit or had the jitters or whatever you want to say, because he dropped 2 balls that T.Y. Hilton should catch. They were huge drops in that game. He was running on the sideline trying to stay loose. He was a limited snap guy. I don't know what to do with all that information. Eric Ebron was put on IR, sadly, so that's over. I'm not trusting Jack Doyle. I would honestly start Mo Alley Cox over Jack Doyle this week if
Mo Alley Cox season
in a deep tight end premium league. But yeah, not a lot to be had there. Both running backs, and like you said, can't trust Tennessee pass catchers, but Tannehill's getting it done. Tannehill's been a revelation, and he does a lot of it with his feet. So if you have him, he's another guy you continue to stream, because you should be able to score on the Colts.
Can we please talk about something else?
We certainly can. Why
I think
not?
I hate Tennessee. The funny thing is, I used to like the Titans. I liked McNair. I liked Eddie George. I'm a huge Corey Davis guy. I liked a lot of the team. The way that they play these games, I think I hate them the most in the entire NFL right now.
Yeah, I'm not the biggest fan either.
They're gross.
They're not fun to watch. I don't own Derrick Henry anywhere, so that never makes me happy when I see him rip off an 80-yard touchdown. I don't benefit, so why would I like it? It can only hurt me. So I'm with you. We're not a Pro Titans podcast. You wanted to talk about a better game? Let's go to Pittsburgh. When Devlin Hodges was named the starting quarterback against the Cleveland Browns, where Pittsburgh is only a 2-point dog on, what are we calling this? Helmet Revenge Gate? What are we doing? Nobody's
in the game, so it doesn't matter.
Yeah, absolutely no one. Not even Mason Rudolph is playing in this game. The suspension still carry through, so yeah, no one involved will play in this game. How is Cleveland only giving 2 points to Pittsburgh? How?
Because it's on the road. That's really what it comes down to. And then Pittsburgh's horrific start to Cleveland's horrific start to the year after all the hype. People just are down on them.
Not enough. Devlin Hodges, he's a great story. Duck Hodges, I just saw a picture of him hunting with James Washington. that was cute. But Cleveland, even without Myles Garrett, and Pittsburgh's defense, which is good, but is just on the field forever in these games, is going to wear down, and Cleveland's going to cover this game. Should be easily. It would be an epic fail and be just like the Browns being the Browns, right, John?
Well,
they dropped the ball in this game in what should be a relatively easy win against a division foe. This is probably another 20-carry Nick Chubb game, because all games are 20-carry Nick Chubb games.
Yeah.
Mix in a little Kareem Hunt. They have 2 guys they throw the ball to in Jarvis Landry and Odell. You're definitely starting both of them. And Baker, I think, is a low-end QB1, high-end QB2. It's a low total in this game. I could see it, being more run-centric, so don't expect him to do what he did against Miami last week. But I could see Cleveland should be an easy cover here. Pittsburgh, Benny Snell's clearly the starting running back there. They hate Jalen Samuels. I don't know what else to say about that. I just read that Juju Smith-Schuster is still wearing that knee brace from 2 weeks ago. There's no sense in rushing him back. I can't see how he plays again this week. So fire up your James Washingtons, I guess, because Duck Hodges is definitely going to throw a couple of medicine balls to him in this game, and we'll see how it goes.
Medicine balls. The Browns are sitting at 5-6. They get to play Pittsburgh. If they win this, they get the Bengals 2 more times. Mm-hmm. So bump them up to 8 wins there. And then they play at Arizona, which could be tougher than it looks on paper. But if you give them that, and then they have Baltimore, which they'll lose, likely 9-7. So this team that looked like dog shit to start the year with super lofty expectations, I think if they can finish the year 9-7, that's a pretty big accomplishment. But back to this game, my Jalen Samuels heart is broken. I don't trust anyone on Pittsburgh as long as Duck is in at QB. For Cleveland, they've seemed to be clicking lately. So you could start playing Baker Mayfield again. I know I have in a couple leagues. He's been my quarterback for the last 2 or 3 weeks since they've been playing well. They seem to be just obscenely trying to get the ball to Beckham, which is good if you own Beckham. Even, just shitty targets, he's getting it done because he's getting the volume. And Hunt and Chubb have been fantastic together.
Very true. And it was interesting. Last week, I put a poll out because I was truly conflicted. Do I start Jalen Samuels in what should have been an amazing game for him or Todd Gurley? And Twitter said Todd Gurley, and I went with Todd Gurley. And then Jalen Samuels had a terrible game, and I'm like, that's pretty cool. I made the right decision. And Todd Gurley scored 1 less fantasy point than Jalen Samuels. Luckily, I won the week, but hey, that's just crazy that 6.2 greater than 5.2. Who would have thought it? But
what a time to be alive.
This Cleveland schedule is setting up beautifully for that run and for them to back into the playoffs. So we'll see where that goes.
For Kitchens to keep his job. A couple weeks ago, it looked like Kitchens was a sure one and done.
Listen, who would have thought that Kareem Hunt would have been the key that unlocks this entire offense? And he has been. It's been so
me.
Yeah, well, yeah, you love Kareem Hunt. Kareem Hunt blinders on over there. But regardless, it's worked, and they should handle this game. Last 1:00 game, and there is a lot of them. John loves 1:00 games. Green Bay heads to New York to face the Giants, who are a 6.5-point dog against the battered and beaten and abused Green Bay Packers, who get a get-right game in MetLife Stadium.
Yeah, the Packers, after that embarrassing showing against the Niners, really got to bounce back here. I don't love the travel schedule. Green Bay to San Francisco, now to the East Coast for the Giants. It's a lot of traveling in a couple weeks, so I could see the Giants covering. I wouldn't bet it, but it wouldn't shock me. But I think Green Bay wins a little closer than we'd like, mainly because Matt LaFleur is a fucking idiot, similar to McCarthy. Doesn't know how to use this team. When they force feed Aaron Jones, good things happen. They refuse to do it. They've completely gone away from him in the passing game, which was a large part of why Green Bay was playing so well, because they were using him as a receiver, and he did really well with that role. So that's just surprising. I don't think Devontae Adams is completely healthy yet, but they want to keep peppering him the ball instead of getting into their running backs. That's their own problem. For the Giants, Barkley looked awful against the Bears. I don't think he's fully healthy from when he got banged up earlier. If they're smart, they'll lose this game and then shut him down for the rest of the year, which is terrible for fantasy playoffs. But other than that, the Giants are a shit show. I mean, I could see my man Slayton breaking maybe a long one. I think Golden Tate has a concussion now that what's-his-name came back from a concussion, Shepard. So there's not much on the
concussions. Is that what you're telling me? You're just tagging in and out, high-fiving each other.
I'm not liking much for the Giants here. I think Green Bay shows up after a garbage game last week. But I think this is going to be not necessarily a defensive battle, but I just don't see a lot of scoring here. I think both these teams kind of sludge through the fucking mud in this game, and low scoring one. The Packers win by like 5 or 6.
Oh, okay, so you say that line is pretty accurate. You touched on just about all bases. You didn't shit on Jamal Williams enough for my liking. He is just a junk time stat compiler. I'm not getting off of this. He's eating all the targets in come from behind mode. When you nailed it, Aaron Jones was such a product. It was such a valuable piece of this offense while Devontae Adams was out, and they used him to stress linebackers, and he's just so much more explosive. And then when Adams comes back, they're like, oh, okay, we're never going to do that again. We're just going to eliminate you from the passing game role. We're going to limit your rushing down work, and we're going to use more of this Jamal Williams character. Look where that gets you. You know, LaFleur needs to reevaluate. Aaron Jones should see 15 to 18 carries in this game, should be a high-end RB1 in this game. Hopefully he sees a couple catches. Positive game script. I think both running backs ultimately get off. I'm not trusting Aaron Rodgers, even in a good matchup, because outside of Adams, there's just no one consistent in that offense. There's just so many variables beyond Adams that I think it's going to be a run-centric game, and probably a cover, because they really should beat Giants by more than 7. But as far as the Giants are concerned, yeah, who knows with Saquon Barkley? You might want to go out and get Wayne Gallman if you're a Barkley owner, because there's a distinct possibility if they shut him down, then Gallman's going to get all that work. And if he's healthy, he's shown that he can put up points in this offense, and they're not just going to pack it in all together. Golden Tate concussion, probably won't play. So, it should be a Sterling Shepard game. I don't think Ingram's playing. I haven't heard anything about that. He might not play again this year either. So maybe your boy Slayton gets off, but he should get Jair Alexander. So I wouldn't be too confident in that. But all in all, crappy game. No one should watch it. Couple 4 o'clock games. Let's speed this up a little bit. The LA Rams, off of a historic embarrassment. Previously discussed, Lamar Jackson Ravens head to Arizona to face the Cardinals coming off a bye week, who are a 3-point underdog to the Rams. And I said, John, before, the LA Rams hashtag is one word, LA Rams. I said they should transpose those letters a little bit, and they should be the LA Mars, because Lamar Jackson just owns the Rams. Thought that was funny enough to reshare, but probably. All right, what do you got?
Boy, I can't get a feel for this Arizona team. I know that they're winning. Kenyon Drake is suddenly valuable. David Johnson is dead. Kyler Murray is shockingly putting up points, but all their wide receivers suck, which is fascinating. On the other hand, for the Rams, oh boy, they got embarrassed, and there's no reason to think they're suddenly going to get better. I mean, if you have Gurley, you kind of have to use him unless you got much better options out there. Like you had mentioned, debate between him and Jalen Samuels last week. I've benched Gurley a few times this year, which is crazy if you just roll the clock back a little bit. It's not because of health. It's because the offense sucks. So everybody loving this McVay offense, and it's dead in the water. Goff has been horrible. The wide receivers have been bad. Even Kupp had a goose egg last week, if I'm not mistaken, right? Nothing?
He caught a couple balls. He had a goose egg a couple weeks ago, but he has been extremely pedestrian. He hasn't even been a top 24 wide receiver, I think, in this last month. Any single game in this last month. But he did have some catches. Robert Woods was their leading receiver last week, but Kupp did have 6 for 35 on 10 targets. So not by PPR, but not with
Vegas total. Vegas total's 47.5. I don't see a world where it gets close to that, but that is just me.
Yeah, it's a tough game. Why the Rams had literally all their starters in at the end of that game was beyond me. I mean, you're not teaching them a lesson at that point in time. You're just risking injury to those guys. Like, even Todd Gurley, when he was getting tackled, you could tell he was just like over it and pissed off. Like he just caught it, fell down, look for a referee to throw the ball to, and kind of like, put his hands up in the air. Like, why am I still in here? They should have pulled everyone. And who's it? Sean Mannion? Oh, no, Blake Bortles is the backup. Yeah, we should have seen Blake Bortles finish. Right. That would have been amazing. Shit, I'm even more angry now. But Arizona off a bye, looking good. Kyler Murray is getting it done. You're right. I'm not trusting any of the receivers because he spreads it around. They go 4 wide. It could be anyone. It could be an Andy Isabella 80-yard touchdown. It could be a huge Kirk game. It could be Larry Fitz getting 2 short passing touchdowns. It could be Pharaoh Cooper, for Christ's sake. I'm not trusting pass catchers. I did read that Chase Edmonds was back at practice, so we'll be interested to see what happens off the bye where David Johnson's going to be as healthy as he's been in a month. He's been active, hasn't touched the ball. Kenyon Drake's been their bell cow since they traded for him. Edmonds did very well in this offense until he hurt his hamstring. I just think it's going to be ugly. I mean, it looks like DJ's the odd man out on this team. Maybe they actually put him to the IR when Edmonds comes back because they haven't been using him. He's been an emergency back for these last couple games. Maybe they just shelf him for the rest of the season. And if Edmonds is back, it's going to be a split between the two of them, which makes
I think DJ's bye-bye. DJ is the odd man out, at least for the remainder of this year, for sure.
And then just sitting on a big nut for him next year still, where it looks like they have 2 better running backs that are a lot cheaper in this offense, and there's nothing they can do about it. Either they're going to eat a ton of money or they're going to let Kenyon Drake walk because he'll be an unrestricted free agent after this year. So interested to see. But you said you don't see how it touches that over. I kind of agree with you. Division game, the Rams – who knows what they are right now. Arizona should be able to put up points. You saw what Lamar Jackson did to him, and you got a mini Lamar Jackson and Kyler Murray who should be able to find seams, extend plays, put up a bunch of yards, on the ground as well. So Kyler Murray should be able to put up another one of these, mid-tier QB1 weeks when it's all said and done.
Then quickly to wrap up the Sunday games. Chargers at Denver. Chargers obviously going to play Eckler. There have been some rumors of possibly a short leash for the suddenly interception-prone Phillip Rivers. He's going to get Chris Harris probably, but I still like Keenan Allen this week. Other than that, the Chargers, look, you want to play Melvin Gordon, that's your business. We've covered that guy enough here. He stinks. For Denver, that offense is a shit show, but Cortland Sutton is a fucking man. So give me Cortland Sutton only. Good luck rolling the dice with that backfield every week. This is a game I'm not looking forward to. Thanks, NFL, for making it 1/3 of the afternoon slate.
Yeah, no real argument. I mean, Royce Freeman doesn't play football for the Broncos anymore. It's effectively Philip Lindsay's backfield. So you could probably start him. And for the Chargers, I would obviously fire up Hunter Henry. He's probably he steps on the field. He's a top 3 tight end in fantasy. So, chalk that up. I haven't heard about the Philip Rivers short leash. I totally understand why, because he has looked abysmal. And maybe Tyrod Taylor sparks this offense a little bit. I'm pretty sure he's the backup there. That would be interesting to see. That offensive line is dog shit. So maybe they need Tyrod back there so he can extend plays a little bit because Philip Rivers is a statue. But,
Easton Stick off the bench.
Or you could go with that Bison, Easton Stick, bring a little thunder to this offense. But, yeah, division game, don't give a shit about it. Low total, 38.5. Not going to watch it. The more interesting game, the other half of that conference, of that division, Oakland Raiders head to Kansas City, where the Chiefs are a 9.5-point favorite with a 51.5 total. I fire up all your Chiefs. For Oakland, you're clearly starting Josh Jacobs. You probably should start Tyrell Williams, even though he's at a lull, and you're starting Darren Waller. Anything else?
No. Chiefs by murder. That's my spread in this one.
I mean, after seeing what the Jets did to Oakland, the Chiefs should be able to just absolutely throttle them. I would keep an eye out on Tyreek Hill. He injured his hamstring before the bye. I haven't really seen much.
They actually said he was okay that day. They were just holding him out for precautionary reasons. For everything I've heard, there's absolutely no limitations at all. So look for him to go for about 205.
It's entirely likely, but listen, hamstring with speed wide receiver. They could say they're not scared about it at all. He was standing on the sideline. Supposedly he wanted to go back in, probably because it was his altitude in Mexico City. It was probably a really good idea. They didn't. I'm a little concerned that he could re-aggravate that hamstring injury. But if he's active, you're starting him, so you can't be that concerned. And I haven't heard shit about Damian Williams. He hurt his ribs. He took a shot in that game. So you want to keep an eye out for that. If he's out, I honestly would start Darrell Williams over LaShawn.
Yes, unfortunately.
I would. All right. Moving on to the Sunday night football game. The totally undeserving New England Patriots head to Houston to face the Texans, who are a 3.5-point dog, where Bill Belichick's going to teach Bill O'Brien yet another lesson in how to be a better head coach. Why I say the undeserving Patriots is because they have been impossible to watch these last 2 weeks against the Eagles and Dallas Cowboys, where they are winning as ugly as humanly possible and living on that defense. Does this change going to Houston, John?
We always joke about the Browns being the Browns and the Patriots are the Patriots, and I suspect at some point they're going to get right. Could it be this week? Sure, why not? Primetime game Monday at Houston. Like you said, want to teach O'Brien a little lesson. I could see it. The thing is, Brady hasn't had any continuity at wide receiver. They've had Josh Gordon, got rid of Josh Gordon, had AB, got rid of AB. Dorsett can't stay healthy. Edelman was banged up at one point. Jacoby Myers is in the lineup. He's out of the lineup now. Harry's back. Sanu came in. Sanu's gone. So he's had a lot of moving parts to try to get this figured out. I don't know if this is the week, but I think at some point they get all on the same page and start clicking. And just in time for the playoffs, where they're going to run through everybody again and go to the Super Bowl like we see every year. But it could happen. Do I believe it's this week? It's as good a chance as any for the remaining schedule.
Yeah, I mean, the Texans had a 10 days rest and prep time for this game because they were the Thursday night game last week. As we recall, the Colts attempted to run as many times as humanly possible against the Texans to keep them off the field, which is what led Jonathan Williams to 26 carries for 104 yards and a touchdown. So I could see a Sony Michel game here against Houston where they try to implement a similar game script to keep Deshaun Watson off the field, because when he's on and he gets time, he's going to find He's going to find Fuller or Hopkins deep. I don't care about the defense. I mean, Gilmore should shadow one of the two of them. I'm not sure how they'll deploy him, but he'll largely eliminate one of these guys. But they still do have another game-breaking wide receiver when Fuller is healthy. So should be an interesting game, all things being considered. But you're right. I mean, it's the Patriots. They'll cobble it together. They'll probably win it by a field goal at the end of this game. And
not what? Who they got? Nugent kicking? He's been fucking terrible. Maybe not.
No, they moved on from Nugent. They have another old retread. It was the Jets kicker, Nick Folk.
Hasn't he been missing too though?
Is now they're good. Probably. Who knows? Folk was 2 of 4 in field goals, but it was in the shittiest conditions possible in Foxborough. So yeah, he wasn't good, but he hit a 44-yarder. And made his extra point. So he'll still be their kicker this week. But, yeah, not a lot to trust. It's Edelman, and I would be willing to start Sony Michel in this game. What's going on with James White?
I don't know.
He's disappeared. Totally disappeared. Week.
Yeah, Sony had a huge – let me see. I have it right in front of me because I just wrote something about it. But last week, Sony Michel had the Lions snap share 51%, and White had 30%. And White's been the leading snap share guy most weeks this year. So maybe it's a small changing of the guard, but with the Patriots, could just be game script. I mean, there's games where fucking Brandon Bolden gets 30% of the snaps and gets in the end zone a couple times. So it could just be game plan. It might not have been could just be a little blip as we've seen before.
James White had 3 touches for -1 yard against the Cowboys last week.
Yeah.
Whoa. Wow. Rely on that if you want. Yeah. All right. Monday Night Football.
Bum, 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 bum.
Bum, 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 bum. The Minnesota Vikings head to Seattle to face the Seahawks, who are a nominal 3-point favorite with a 49-point game total. Very excited about this game, I'm going to be honest.
I didn't even know this was the Monday night game till this very moment, so now I'm pretty excited too.
I think it will be a very good game. It will be a very watchable game. I think my boy Rashad pennies from heaven. It had to happen against my Eagles. Finally happened. Long overdue. Chris Carson fumbled on back-to-back runs. It was just like my eyes were tearing. I was so happy as an Eagles fan and as a Rashad Penny truther to watch those plays in real time and say,
did you see Russell Wilson yelling at him too?
Oh, yeah. I mean, listen, it's game over. I forget what podcast I listened to, but someone brought up the Peyton Manning clip when he yelled at Donald Brown, "Damn it, Donald," in that moment. And I agree. I mean, supposedly he changed the call and Carson didn't hear the changed call, so he wasn't expecting the handoff. What the fuck ever. You fumbled it on another play too. You have ball security problems. And Rashad Penny's a better running back. He is. Just give him the ball. He's far more explosive. He's a better pass catcher. Maybe he's not a better pass blocker. Again, we've covered this with the Aaron Jones, Jamal Williams corollary. I do not give a shit about pass blocking. Russell Wilson's mobile enough that he can avoid some bad pass pro by a running back. Get the more explosive running back on the field. It is Rashad Penny. If he doesn't get more carries than Chris Carson this week, I'm done. I'm done as a whole. I'm not done with Penny. I'm just done with this situation because Pete Carroll is a fucking liar if he doesn't do it. Rashad Penny has earned the right to get more carries than Carson. Carson's almost costing them wins this season. You can't keep going back to that guy in that environment. So sorry, the flame is burned out on Chris Carson, and we probably witnessed a coming out party for Rashad Penny. So if you didn't own him, you're likely not getting him. And I want to see what he does against Minnesota. It was a pretty stout run defense. So ultimately, I think the pass weapons for Seattle are going to be the ones that shine. Tyler Lockett was invisible in his first game back against the Eagles. DK Metcalf should have had a big game. He dropped a long touchdown. It was slightly underthrown. He didn't adjust to it well, but hit him in the hand. Should have caught it. And then he dropped another one. Then there was one on the sideline. I don't really believe it was a drop. It was pretty contested, but he was a couple inches away from probably 140-yard, one touchdown game when it was all said and done. And I think that will come. I don't trust the Vikings secondary. I think they're highly overrated. Xavier Rhodes is toast. And I think that's how they're going to beat them. So I think there's a huge Russell Wilson game at home in a shootout. And I think that'll force Kirk Cousins to throw with them. You can throw on Seattle. Their secondary isn't good either, which should mean big Stephon Diggs game. Adam Thielen should be back and fully healthy. I don't think he's played in a month, just enough to crush my Scott Fishbowl team, but come back for everyone else's playoff run. But that means Kyle Rudolph will disappear into the ether again, and then clearly you're going to start Dalvin Cook. I don't think there's anything else to bring up in that game. Do you?
No, you covered all the bases. Totals 49. I wouldn't if the weather in Seattle is decent. I wouldn't be shocked to see this being a nice 30-something to 30-something game. This could go way over. This is probably the best game of the week, which being on a Monday night would be pretty cool.
Yeah, I'm actually going to stay up for that one. I agree. I think it's going to be a pretty interesting game, and it's got to have a decent amount of playoff implications as well, with two NFC teams that are vying for. Seattle is still a wild card team because of those 49ers. And Minnesota is a wildcard team as well because they're behind Green Bay. So this is a huge game, Week 13, Monday night. So good way to end the week. Which game are you more interested in watching, Minnesota, Seattle, or 49ers against the Ravens?
Well, Seattle because I'm biased.
I am too. I'm there with you. I think the San Fran-Baltimore game could be a sneaky defensive game somehow. I just don't see this happening with Minnesota-Seattle. I think that's guaranteed fireworks. So I'm there.
Yes.
We'll be watching that game.
Agreed.
All right. Long wrap up. We're about an hour now. Take that, Andrew Burke. You should have been on the podcast to rein us in. So this is all your fault. Good luck editing. What we're going to do, it is Thanksgiving Eve, if that's a thing. Tomorrow is Thanksgiving. We did recap the game. So what we wanted to do is just a quick what we're thankful for at the end of it. So far in the fantasy season, good, bad, or indifferent. Anyone who listens to this podcast knows we have pretty strong takes. We don't really waver. If we hate a guy, we hate him forever. If we like him, it's to the death. It's marriage. It's till death do us part. So, John, why don't you start us off with something you are thankful for this fantasy?
Oh, easy one. Leonard Fournette staying healthy, becoming the RB1 I believed in my little black heart, he could be getting a ton of volume even in the passing game. When last I checked, he was number 4 in receptions, and he had a huge game last week. He might even be higher. So he's the number 4 pass catching back. Who thought you'd ever say that? He's just a fucking stud until this last week. He only had 1 touchdown too. So he's, assuming he stays on the field, which he's no indication he's going to get banged up this year. He's looked great. He should, positive regression, should score some more touchdowns here to close out the year. I think Fournette is a fantasy football championship winner as the year closes. I love me, and I'm thankful for some Leonard Fournette.
Leonard Fournette, 56 catches in 11 games, 5 receptions per game, is number 4. Somehow, Alvin Kamara in only 9 games has 60 catches. And then clearly McCaffrey and Eckler are 1 and 2. But Kamara with 60 catches in 9 games is otherworldly. But yeah, Fournette has those receptions have gone a long way, because before last week he had 1 rushing touchdown through 10 weeks, even though he was seeing the volume. But he got 2 last week, and he is getting those receptions. Still doesn't have a receiving touchdown on the year. So he had 1 total touchdown before that 2 touchdown outburst, and yet still is thriving as an RB1. So volume is king. He has stayed healthy. Kudos to you. Mine, not going to come as a shock to anyone here. Chris motherfucking Godwin. Wide receiver 2 on the year, behind only target vacuum Michael Thomas out there in New Orleans. Chris Godwin has less targets, more catches, more yards, and more touchdowns than Mike Evans. He's better than Mike Evans. Said he was. He is. Feels so good. I'm thankful for being right, for not wavering, for knowing Mike Evans was overrated. He's going to thrive on a couple big games, which he has done again. And kudos to Mike Evans. Was it 6 straight 1,000-yard seasons? Only him and Randy Moss did it. Can't take that away from him. But he is way too boomer bust for me. He will win you one week and he will lose you the next. And at the end of the day, that is 500. Chris Godwin's bad weeks are still 10 to 15 points. And his big weeks are just as big as Mike Evans. You know, Chris Godwin, 170 and 2 touchdowns last week. Ooh, it felt good having him in just about every lineup I have in fantasy football last week. I am so thankful that Chris Godwin is a wide receiver 1.
I am thankful for the Cincinnati Bengals, because someone who likes to stream tight ends and quarterbacks, boy, you can't go wrong streaming a tight end against Cincinnati every week. And this week they get Ryan Griffin of the Jets. So thank you, Bengals, for being so dog shit that every tight end gets in the end zone against you.
Now, that is a great one, because you found a way to spin positive while shitting on someone. So that is the full Dabari.
What
I'm going to go to you do better than anyone else. I'm going to go tight end position, and I'm just going to go a broad strokes here. Mark Andrews, Darren Waller, even to a lesser degree, Austin Hooper. We are pretty goddamn good at tight end on this podcast, if I do say so myself. Late round tight end. I mean, Kelsey's still 1, Ertz is still 2. Kittle, probably on a per game basis is 3. So the top guy still did it for you. But there's been an ascension of some lesser knowns. No one respects Hooper. Andrews got that dreaded, will we see enough snaps? Darren Waller, who even knew what he was going to be in Oakland? Well, we did. And if we waited, or if you waited and you picked these guys, you're not trying to stream Ryan Griffin this week against the Cincinnati Bengals like John is, because you have Mark Andrews on your team already, and he's going against the Niners, and you're going to start him over Griffin. So thankful to us for staying the course on tight end and not taking the cheese and overdrafting some of these guys. Give me one more, John.
I am thankful for knowing which teams were going to be dog shit running back by committee teams that I completely avoided for the most part. Teams like Denver, we don't know what you're going to get every week with Lindsey or Freeman. I'm glad I dipped out of that disaster. Houston splitting between Hyde and Duke Johnson. I'm thankful that the teams that have made their running backs fantasy worthless made it known early in the year. And if you were opposed to those type of things, you're able to avoid it nice and early. So thanks for letting us know you're going to be a fantasy graveyard of running back early, so we could not savvy people could avoid it.
Well said. And I'm just going to piggyback on that with players like Tevin Coleman and James Conner, who I've always hated and I will always hate. And they have just dropped the ball for various reasons. Connor, everyone is going to hang it on him being injured. Well, he wasn't good when he was not injured and playing a ton of snaps and touching the ball a ton. Oh, Big Ben got hurt. that happens. A lot of quarterbacks went down this year. Chris McCaffrey is still running back 1 overall with Kyle Allen as a quarterback. Pittsburgh has a plus line. James Conner enthusiast, time to move on. Unfortunately, it hasn't benefited our boy Jalen Samuels. So, F you, Mike Tomlin, I guess is the larger takeaway from this, because the stage was set for Jalen Samuels to break out. And then Tevin Coleman, like I said, he's had this backfield largely to himself because your boy Matt Breida just cannot stay healthy. It will never, ever, ever happen. So don't pin any hopes on Breida, because when he comes back, he's going to get hurt again. And then he'll be out for the fantasy playoffs. But Tevin Coleman still finds a way to stink. He got a junk 1-yard touchdown after an Aaron Rodgers turnover and still did nothing more the rest of that game in a blowout. He is super overrated, and that's why he's still only running back 22. So I'm thankful that the guys that I hated at running back have not bit me in the ass this year, even to a lesser degree. Chris Carson, who still with volume is only running back 10 on the year, and it looks like his ship has sailed. So my fade running backs have been spot on this year, and I'm very thankful for that. It's been a pretty good year for me as far as that's concerned. So, ended with negativity as well. We should, shitting on the Bengals, talking about terrible running backs. Anything else you want to say before we sign off, John, and make Andrew edit this now hour and 22-minute podcast?
I got nothing. Enjoy the holiday,
all right,
folks.
I made this playoffs in a league that I totally tried to blow up and rebuild a team that I picked up this year. Should I be happy or sad about that? Am I thankful that the team I literally blew up has made the playoffs?
If you're fishing for draft picks, you should not be happy because you've just ruined your chances.
Listen, I tried my damnedest, John, to be, quote unquote competitive. And I won the division. It's a 12-man league, three division league, and I have already clinched the playoffs. I will be the 3 seed at a 7-5 record in that division. And I do have a plethora. I have 2 first-round picks and I think 4 second-round picks in the draft. But, yes.
Then you should be happy.
Yeah, and the first pick I traded for that's not mine should be the 101. So, a team that still stayed competitive, won 7 games, has a Lamar Jackson, Kyler Murray quarterback room. Unfortunately, it is only a 1 QB league, but still, I am set up for quarterback.
You're set for the next decade, yeah.
And hopefully I pick up some absolute studs. But yes, I'm conflicted because now I'm like, well, now I got to try and win the whole thing, right? I mean, it's only a couple spots in the playoff race. I'm in the playoffs now.
You do.
But I am starting people like Bo Scarborough at running back. So that's where I'm at.
Well, this was a good draft for you to get that squared away.
That's where I'm at. So, League of Wannabes, thanks for having me. And I'm going to win it all now. That's all I got.
Well, that should do it for myself, John DeBari, my co-host, Matt Walker, and the missing, trapped in the snow somewhere in Washington while he's cooking illicit substance in Winnebago. We assume Andrew Burke. We are the Fantasy 26.67. Hopefully next week we'll have a full host array. Thanks for listening. Enjoy the holiday. Happy Thanksgiving.
Full-Time Fantasy Network. Go check it out. Proud sponsors.